Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Penn Vicarage on this slightly overcast but nonetheless lovely Thursday morning. Lovely to see you. Hope you're well and cheerful. I'm looking forward to a good day too. Well, my friends, I don't know what you have planned for the summer. I guess it all depends on what Boris says a week on Monday, doesn't it? But I don't know if you're planning on doing any travelling. Are you planning on risking the green countries abroad, or are you planning staycations in this country, or another 2 weeks in the garden, or whatever? I don't know what you have plans, but in this morning's reading from the letter of Paul to Romans, we hear about travel plans Paul style. Just to remind you what's happened, Paul had become a Christian. He spent about 14 years coming to terms with it. Then he went on 3 what you call missionary journeys. And the letter of Paul to the Romans was written towards the tail end of his 3rd missionary journey. He'd had basically 3 years out on this journey, and he has 3 months in Corinth before returning to Jerusalem. And in this reading this morning, we have Paul's plans and hopes and prayers for the future. So with that in mind, here we go. Romans chapter 15, starting at verse 22, travel plans, Paul style. This is the reason that I have so often been hindered from coming to you. But now, with no further place for me in these regions, I desire, as I have for many years, to come to you when I go to Spain. For I do hope to see you on my journey, and to be sent on by you once I've enjoyed your company for a little while. At present, however, I'm going to Jerusalem in a ministry to the saints. For Macedonia and Achaia have been pleased to share the resources with the poor among the saints at Jerusalem. They were pleased to do this, and indeed they owe it to them. For if the Gentiles have come to share in their spiritual blessings, they ought also to be of service to them in material things. So, when I've completed this, and have delivered to them what's been collected, I will set out by way of you to Spain, and I know that when I come to you, I will come in the fullness of the blessing of Christ. I appeal to you, brothers and sisters, by our Lord Jesus Christ, and by the love of the Spirit, to join me in earnest prayer to God on my behalf, that I may be rescued from the unbelievers in Judea, and that my ministry in Jerusalem may be acceptable to the saints, so that by God's will I may come to you with joy and be refreshed by your company. The God of peace be with all of you. Amen. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Well, like I said, this is Paul's hopes and prayers for the future. He's hoping, as you just heard, he hopes to go to Jerusalem first with some money. Then he's going to go from there to Rome, and the plan is to go from Rome to Spain. You might say, why Spain? Is he just looking forward to a few months on the Costa del Sol, flying into Malaga? No, I think what that's about really is at the beginning of the book of Acts, he talks about the gospel of Jesus Christ being spread from Jerusalem to Judea to Samaria and to the ends of the earth. And at the time, as I understand it, Spain was considered the edge of the Roman Empire. So what Paul is basically saying is, I'm going to Spain because I want to spread the gospel to the entire world, not to be restricted just around here in the Middle East. He wants to be spread it out to the ends of the earth. I think that's what Paul meant when he's talking about going to Spain. But there are 2 things I want to bring out this morning. Firstly is this. Paul speaks to the Romans and he asks them for their prayers. And I think there are 2 things in particular that Paul asks for them to pray about. He says, please, Romans, can you pray for me? It's a prayer request, really. He says, I'm just about to go to Jerusalem. And he knows it's not going to be an easy trip. And the first thing he says, he prays for that his ministry will be acceptable to the saints. He planned that he was going to go and take some money with him, but his ministry had always been a bit controversial. Because most of the Christians in Jerusalem had been Jewish before. And Paul's great contribution was that the gospel of Jesus Christ wasn't just for people who are Jewish, but it's for Gentiles, for everybody else, including, dare I say, people like you and me. And Paul's ministry had always, therefore, been controversial. And even though he was bringing money with him, he was bringing a gift with them, he knew it was going to be controversial then. So he says, please, can you pray for me, Romans? Please, can you pray for me that my ministry will be acceptable? In other words, that it will be a good trip, that he'll find common ground that he'll be listened to, and they'll get the message too. And so he's praying, my ministry will be acceptable to the saints, that it'd be a good trip and well received and so on. So the first thing he prays for, please ask, can you pray for my trip, that it will be acceptable to the saints? The other thing is he prays for safety, because he knows that there are unbelievers in Jerusalem who go out to get him. Dare I say, people like he used to be once upon a time, who wanted to persecute Christians. And he knows that it's going to be a pretty risky time when he's in Jerusalem. And so he says, please, can you pray for my safety? Please, can you pray for me that I will be delivered from there so I can get to you? And of course, the great thing, of course, is with the benefit of wonderful hindsight, because we know what happened to Paul when he was in Jerusalem. We know that it really was as bad as he thought it might have been. And he really did escape by the skin of his teeth. That he was persecuted when he was there. And he basically escaped under house arrest, really. There were various riots and things. And Paul did escape, but he escaped by the skin of his teeth. So quite rightly, Paul was right to say, please can you pray for my safety? Pray that it will go well with the saints, but also pray that I could be safe, that I can be delivered from the unbelievers around there as well. So, in our reading today, Paul he asks the Romans for their prayers. Prayer that the ministry will go well in Jerusalem, and pray also that God will keep him safe when he's in Jerusalem too. But there's another thing Paul talks about this morning as well. He says that at the moment he's making a collection for the saints in Jerusalem. Now it's quite interesting, his motivation for doing that, because people hate it when vicars talk about money. And if it's any use to you, I think vicars hate talking about money even more than people hate vicars talking about money. It always makes us feel a bit awkward. But actually, financial giving is important. But what I think is quite interesting here is Paul's motivation for actually making the collection for the saints in Jerusalem. He doesn't say, interesting enough, these missionary journeys, they're very expensive, how much, you'll never believe how much it costs. And he doesn't start banging on about the roofs, whatever, he doesn't talk about the cost of ministry to say at all. His motivation for the gift is actually twofold. Firstly, he says he's for the poor in Jerusalem. We don't know what the problem was. It's thought there may have been some kind of a famine or could have been persecution, but whatever it was, there was quite a lot of poverty around Jerusalem. And Paul's motivation here, first motivation, is it might be a gift for the poor amongst the saints. They're having a hard time. Therefore, we should bless them while they're having a hard time. And actually, it's really important that churches do this, that churches don't just get money all the time, but that we give money away. Churches actually give away huge amounts of money every year, far more than people have any idea, really. And actually, here at St. Bart's and St. Anne's, we give away 10% of everything that we get, which is usually about £10,000 or £11,000, because we believe actually it's important that we bless other people who are less materially fortunate than us. So his first motivation behind the gift is so that we can give money away. That's the first thing. But his second motivation is particularly to do with the saints at Jerusalem. He says they've shared their spiritual blessing with you and I, therefore we should share our material blessings with them. In other words, they blessed us spiritually, so we should bless them materially. And I suppose I simply want to say to you today, it's actually right that we do think about giving sometimes, because actually, and giving to the church, because actually, as we are being spiritually blessed, it's right actually that we bless financially in response and thanks. And I'm sure that you are feeling blessed at the moment. These talks every day, so the music, the services, the choirs, and all the ministry and the teaching and everything. And I'm sure I really hope and pray that you're being blessed. But as we are being spiritually blessed, it's right that we bless financially in return. So it's right that occasionally we do think about our giving, and that we do give generously and we do give abundantly towards the work of God. Because if we're being spiritually blessed, we should bless materially in return. So here we are, Romans chapter 15. A couple of things he wants to bring out today. Firstly, he asks the Romans to pray for him on his trip to Jerusalem. It's going to be difficult, he says, but I pray that, I ask you to pray for me, that I will be kept safe and that people will receive my ministry. But he also talks about his gift, the money he's taking with him to Jerusalem. But he collecting the money, mostly to give to the poor around Jerusalem, the saints amongst the poor people amongst the saints. But also, as they've been spiritually blessed, the people should bless materially in return. And so should we. My friends, I hope that's helpful. God bless you. Have a lovely day. And last chapter.